So we're talking fractions, decimals, and percent, right? First, we're gonna learn how to go from.
But they're rocks.
We're gonna learn how to go from percentage to decimals. That's easy, very easy stuff, right? Again, to write a percent as a decimal, you just divide it by 100 and do what? And then remove the symbol, right? So if you want to go, for example, 16%, you just have to divide it by 100, 16 over 100, and just take away the symbol, right? And then how do you know when you divide by 100? What do you do when you divide a number by 100? You move the decimal how many places to the right?
1, 2.
2 places to the right. Every time you divide by 100, that means you move the decimal 2 places to the right, right? And then if you go from a percentage to a decimal, you have to remove the symbol. 16% is the equivalent of what? Is the equivalent of 0.16, right? It's the same thing. Again, this is one of the easiest things. And you can use your calculator. You should use your calculator, right? It's easy stuff, right? So again, if I have 16%, I just write it as 16 over 100, and that's 0.16. If it's 7%, what would that be equal to?
0.7.
7 over what? 100. Is this 0.7 or 0.07?
0.07.
0.07, because if you start here, I'm going to move it right. Actually, I say the dumbest thing. You don't move the decimal to the right, but to the left. 2 places to the left, all right? So if you were watching the video, I'm sorry. So it's 2 places to the left. So we're going to start from here, right? We're going to go 1 and 2. So it's going to be 0.07. So this is 0.07. And then we make sure we take away the percent symbol, right? Now, what if I had 0.2%? How would I write that as a fraction? Anybody? 0.2%. How do I go from that to a decimal? First, I need to turn it into a fraction. Yes?
So you move the decimals 2 places.
To the left, right? So if I start here at 0.2, I'm going to go what? I'm going to go from here, I'm going to go 1 and another 1, and I'll put a dot here, so it's 0.002, right? This is what it is, 0.002. So you have to be very careful when you do these things, all right? So that's just pretty much from going from percent to decimal. So now, how do you go from decimal to percent, right? Again, you go in the backward, right? If you can go forward, you can also go backward, right? You can figure it out. So to write a decimal as a percent, you multiply by what? By 100, right? To go from percent to decimal, you divide by 100. But to go from decimal to percent, you do what? You multiply by 100 and add what? The percentage symbol, right? For example, 0.7, and I want to turn this into a percentage. I'm going to do what? I'm going to do 0.7 times 100, and that turns into what? 70. I have to make sure I put the symbol, right? So example, if I give you a homework, you go 0.70, 70. That's false. It's not 70, it's 70%, right? We need to understand the proper language, the proper way of interpreting things. We can't just put 70 and say, well, I got to write it. No, the symbol matters a lot because it says that this is 70 over 100. Does that make sense, right? For example, 0.03 as a percentage. You're going to do 0.03 times what? Times 100. And that gives you what? 3%, right? So pretty simple stuff. So chapter 6 and 7 should be our go-to chapters to kind of boost our grades up. It's really easy stuff, right? Now let's do some example here. I want to turn 0.7% as a fraction. As a percent, what would it be? 0.7%, yes.
This book's really heavy.
Yeah.
Wait, as a fraction?
0.
I want to turn it into percent.
Percent.
So what do you do?
30% though. 0.7%?
Oh, no. 0.7. I want to turn this into a. Actually, yeah. You know what? It's just a bunch of different things here.
Wait, I thought.
Yeah, we're gonna do. Look, I have a list here. 0.7% as a decimal. What would that be?
0.007.
0.007, right? To what? You went from here. You moved it how many times? 2 places to the left, right? Because it's 0.7%. You divide it by 100. If you're confused, just divide it by 100. Right? If you're confused, just divide it by 100. So what about 537%? What would that be?
Shut up, Siri!
What would it be?
5.
I'm gonna die.
5.37, right? You see, 537% is 5.37. Because again, we're dividing by 100, or we're just moving the decimal 2 places to the left. What about 126%?
1.26.
1.26. This should be the easiest chapter. What about 0.9%?
0.009.
0.9, right? Now, I want to turn 0.09 into percentage.
I'm gonna start saying that.
So what do I do? Multiply by, hey, stop. Yeah, what does that mean? Say again. Say 90%? How's that 90%? 0.01.
Oh, I thought you said 9.
No. What would I be then?
1%.
1%, right? What about 3.84? 384%, right? Because again, you multiply by 100. Now what is 0.002?
0.0002.
0.2%, right? Make sure you put a percentage symbol. What about 3.106?
310.6.
310.6. So again, this is probably one of the funnest chapters to work with, yeah?
So it's basically like
Always like fun.
for the decimal ones, or the way to think about it for decimals is percent is always like the hundredth place in the decimal. So if you
That's right.
compare it to that, it's
That's right. Yeah, just like that, right? So if I'm the decimal to percent, I'm going to the right. I'm moving forward, right? I'm going to move it 2 places to the right. That's 1%. So percentage to symbol, I do what? I divide by 100 and move it to the left. It's just that, right? Now we're going to go from fraction to percent, right? We did that last week. From fraction to percent. So what did we do? What was the key to solving this? How do I go from a fraction to a percentage? Yeah?
Compare it to x over 100.
Compared to x over 100, because I want to get it over 100, right? X over 100. Now, for some fractions, they are easier. Like, I know I can go from, so what do I do here? If I had like 5, I just have to multiply by 20, right? But if I don't have like a number that's so obvious, I'm going to use this here. I'm going to set it to equal to x over 100, because we want to know what 5, 8 is in terms of a number over 100, right? And then we use what? The cross multiplication, right? Again, that's just a preview of the test. So this is 500, right, equals to 8x, because I'm going like this, right? And then to find it, I'm going to divide it by what? 8. That gives you what then? Put it in your calculator. What you get? 62.5? Who said it? So 62.5%, right? Now, am I going to write 62.5 or 62.5%? Percent, because I'm going to go from a fraction to a percentage. So 62.5, I do not forget to put my symbol. Because if I don't put it, that means I have a totally different thing. But I want to express it as a percentage. So x is what? 62.5. So the fraction is 62.5%, right? Because if I just write 62.5, it doesn't even make any sense. Because a number over 8, 5 over 8, cannot give you a number that's higher than 1, right? So this has to be a percentage. Now, 7 over 13, how do I turn this into a percent? Equals to what?
X over 100.
Same process, right? And we're going to use again the cross multiplication. So we have 700 equals to 13x.
Divide by 13.
And then we divide by 13. So that gives us what? And then for these kind of questions, always go 2 places to the right? Run it to the nearest hundredth every time. If I don't specify, so that's what I'm expecting. So what did you get for this?
Round two is 53.85.
53 point what?
85.
All right. 52.85%. All right. So 53.85%. All right. So now with this, we're going to try to work on a real world problem, right? In an online survey, 1/5 of teenagers say that their favorite way of communicating with friends is by email. And then 21% prefer text and 0.15 favor instant messaging.
We email?
Now, the question is, hey, that's beside the point. Let's work on this problem, right? So we have 1/5 of teenagers say that their favorite way of communicating is by email. 21%
50%
text,
crazy.
and 0.15 favor instant messaging, which is probably use one of those group types, right? Maybe Snapchat or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
Now,
but I can't
which
have.
group of these is the largest?
21% is.
So how do we know which one is the largest? So first we need to find out how many groups do we have. So first we have the
Yeah, it's just what's the idea?
email. What is the email? What's the fraction for the email?
1/5.
1/5, right?
Email over.
So email is 1/5. What is the text? Text is what? Text is 21%, right? And then the last one is group instant messaging, right? That's 0.15. Instant messaging, I put IM, right? Now how would you compare these numbers?
What's
What would
instant
it,
messages?
it could be like instant, maybe Facebook Messenger or stuff like that.
Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
I would put them all as percent.
Quiet.
I put them all as percent because I know I can turn 0.6 into 15%, and I know 1.5 is an easy way to put it.
That's right, right? So to do this, it's better to have everything in percentage here, right? So we already have the text message 21%, so we can turn 0.15 to a percentage. What would that be? 15%, because we just have to move it two places or multiply by 100. So that's 15%, right? And then I'm also going to turn 1/5 into a percentage, right? Now, it's one of those easier fractions, so how do I turn 1/5 into a percentage?
Times by 20.
I can use this over x over 100, or I can just times this by what? 20, right? So this should be 20% if you do it right. So that'll be 20%, right? So email is 20%, text is 21%, IM is 15%. So which one is the preferred way of communication? Text messages.
Okay, good.
And it's still 21%. It's still true to this day, right? You guys like text. You guys have lost the ability to communicate.
Excuse me?
Because you are afraid of talking, right?
Okay, wow.
So most people just like to text. Most couples now, most teenagers meet their boyfriend, girlfriend through text messaging.
That
You
none of
never
us
you can't
have.
even talk to a girl because you can't. You see her in school, you like, and then like text me, you get bored with what? Yeah, you know, that's kind of like.
That's not